But quick background about yourself. Like, did you grow up playing video games, or is it just Like, what were your first consoles? What were like one of the games that kind of hit you? Like, dang, I love playing games.
Man, so I started way young. I want to say about 2, 3 years old. My dad had the Super Nintendo in the house. And I remember seeing him play games. And one game I remember the most was maybe what was the game that Captain Falcon was in? The little
Oh,
racing game. That was the main game that I remember seeing. I don't know
oh,
why it plays back in my head.
F-Zero, wasn't it F-Zero?
F-Zero, yes,
Yes.
F-Zero.
Ah.
I just remember seeing that
Mhm.
game, and I guess I probably had a controller in my hand and I was trying to play it. Later on, I started to see, yeah, man, because it's just like, and you have to make sure you don't hit the sides and stuff. Man, I remember that game, and then from there, like my childhood was really fun. It was just games, Power Rangers, Barney, like it was a lot of that stuff. And I think we ended up getting a Power Ranger game. I think I ended up eventually like with my family, my cousins, what they had a Sega Genesis, so I ended up seeing Sonic a lot when I was like coming up at a young age. And then as we kept going, like all of my family had games, all of my cousins. So it was like I was trying different games while I was around them. We all shared it together. When they came over, they knew that they could play games. When I went over, I knew I could play games with them. So it went from the Super Nintendo to Sega to I think eventually like getting up and getting a Game Boy to jumping into PlayStation. Very first PlayStation. I think one of the very first PlayStation games I was playing. What was it? We was into fighters a lot. My dad was holding like tournaments with his boys. Like I
Really?
remember,
That's
yeah, I
so
remember.
dope.
And
That's
I'm
so
like,
dope.
yo, I want to play. And I never could play. So I had to watch them. And I'm like, yo, but it was very inspiring because I think eventually that's what got me into like the Kung Fu movies and the actual like wanting to move like that. Like, I can move like that, bro.
Yeah.
Like I can do flips. I can, do the kicks and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like I'm like an action figure in some way or some form, but it came from those fighters, man. Those fighters. One of the main fighters that really got me, and I don't really play it as much now, is Tekken.
Yes. Was it Eddie?
Bro, believe it or not, I wasn't a huge fan of Eddie. I use Eddie, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm actually like, I was into like Jin. I was
Oh,
into
Jin was dope. Yeah.
martial law.
And
I was
Law.
into Lay.
Yeah.
The cop guy, like, cause I used to like how he laid on the ground, act
Yeah.
like he was gonna do something, get up, pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Like I love that. That was like my main fighter, and I eventually got into other fighters and stuff like that. But that stuff right there inspired me to be like, I could do this. And then my dad was like an action figure too. Like this man could do anything. Like he runs super fast. He never like okay. What's funny is I can do way more stuff that he could ever do back then.
But yeah, but back then you
But
look at it like,
yeah,
that's my dad. He's
yeah, that's like my
a
daddy,
Oh
daddy.
yeah.
But now like I'm like, yo,
That's
you know,
dope. That's
I get. He be like, man, I can still do that. I'm like, nah, you
yeah.
can't do a backflip right now, bro. Come on.
Right. It's cool that how video games can spark such an interest that's not relating maybe to games because I was like that because I grew up playing games too and I liked fighting games and I like playing sports games and I'd want to go out there and get the last three of the game and go in
Yeah.
there go play NBA Jam, the nail in the coffee, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's cool, yeah, because I like to ask people like because video games is you said like now it's changing. It's usually be like a bad stigma that you're just playing games, you're wasting your time. But I grew up playing games and I OD'd on them a little bit too much because my parents didn't know how to handle it. And I have kids, and I let them play to a certain extent, but at the same time, like let them go, make sure they go outside and run and do all this stuff because if you're just playing games all the time, then it's bad. But I'm glad that you say growing up, video games are part of your life because it is, and it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're
You never
talking,
know how I can inspire you.
yeah. So